Hi guys! So today marks another exciting moment in the build-up to the launch of the 2017 Hobonichi lineup. Today they have brought out a list of the improvements that they've made to this year's planners in comparison with last year's. So let's have a look at what they've done. There's a lot to discuss here. New feature number 1, turning the page to a new year. So they've added a page in the planner, the original and the cousin at the beginning of the daily pages, which says turning the page to a new year, and they describe it as a warming up page, which allows you to reflect on last year's events, make resolutions for the new year, keep important data that was written in the last year's book or anything else you can think of. So I think that this is a really nice addition. I personally would use this for one of two things. Either, as they suggested, I would use it for transferring over important stuff that was written in last year's planner that I'm not exactly sure where to put, so kind of like a landing page, or I would use it for forward planning for the next year. So one of my very few minor gripes about Hobonichi is that they don't have a page dedicated to forward planning in the end of the book. When I was using a Moleskine, they had this great vertical calendar for the next year. So like, for example, it's August 2016. If I had an event coming up in, say, July 2017, which does sometimes happen, then I would know exactly where to slot it in, and then I could very easily go to those pages when the year was ending and transfer them over into my new planner. Obviously, you can use a notes page, but I think it's kind of nice to have a dedicated page for that. This isn't exactly that because it doesn't have dates, but it still is a very good place that you can use. Obviously, it's also at the beginning rather than at the end, but I think that it's just nice having this dedicated page that you could use for forward planning. But as I said, there are a lot of other uses for it. It's a blank page, and nobody complains about an extra blank page in a planner, right? So I think that's a good move. Number 2, this is big. This is gigantic. This is like the biggest development ever, I think, for the year. The Avec version of the cousin now includes a weekly calendar. So I think that this is something that many of us have been wishing for, because one of the things that we love about the cousin is that it has all those different layouts. It has the monthly layouts, it has the weekly layout, and it has the daily layout. And it has never really made sense why the Avec version should be missing the weekly layout, because that's one of the big selling points of the cousin. So I'm really happy they've added it in. I've personally been going back and forth as to whether I should switch to the Avec because it's just so much more portable and lightweight. I think at the moment I'm going to stick with my full year cousin because I use it as my work planner, and I'm just so wedded to the idea of having the entire 12 months with me all the time. It could be that it's just psychological, and once I get used to the idea of having 6 months, that I'll really prefer having a more lightweight planner because I do carry it around with me a lot. But that is for the future. In the meantime, I'm really, really happy to know that it's there because a lot of people will be jumping on the Avec cousin bandwagon now. So number 3, redesign monthly header pages in the planner, the original and the cousin. Now, they haven't given us a 2016 version to compare, and just looking at this, I can't actually see what the difference is. They say that they have changed the intervals and lengths of the lines on the page, and I'm not really sure what they've done. I don't know if they've given us more lines or fewer lines or made the lines longer. But what they have done, which I can see, is they've added a block of color across the top to make the page easy to find after closing the book. And I think that that is an awesome, awesome idea. I'm really excited about that because I use the memo pages in my cousin as an index for what the daily pages have in them, because I use the daily pages for notes and I reference it all the time. And to make it easier to find them, I've put in tabs at the beginning of every month. And this basically eliminates the need for tabs because it's like they've put built-in tabs in effectively. So I think that that's a great, great improvement. And I think it will also look nice as well. So number 4, improved weekly page design in the weeks. Now, this I think is the one change that I'm quite disappointed about. So they've removed the free space area at the bottom of the weekly page in the weeks, and they spread out the quotes across the 2-page spread, which allows for the inclusion of longer Japanese quotes. I don't know why they've done this, because I use that empty space at the bottom here all the time. I use it for things like phone numbers, websites that I want to remember, just, you know, kind of like random notes that I want to record and they don't belong to a specific day on the weekly spread. And I also use the left-hand part for recording the best thing that happened to me during the day, for every day of the week. So the loss of that space is a huge, huge blow and will really affect the way I use the weeks. Obviously, you do get a bit more space here because they've kind of spread out the quote, at least if this page is anything to go by. I assume that it would depend on the week because the quotes are of different lengths. So it's not like you lose all of the space, but it's a lot messier because beforehand this whole thing was blank and then it had some lines which gave it a bit of structure, and it was just perfect for, you know, notes, and you could use it for all kinds of things, habit tracking. It was great. So I know that I might be biased because I don't read Japanese, so I can't really appreciate the quotes, and to me that's just wasted space. But I will say that even if the quotes were in a language that I understood, if I were given the choice of more quotes or more free writing space, I would definitely choose more free writing space, because my reasoning is you can always find your own quotes and write them in if you really want to. But free writing space is just invaluable. So I think that that's really a shame, and I will miss that. What they have done, though, that I think is a nice touch, is they've reintroduced labels for the day of the week in Japanese. So you can see beforehand they only had the English day of the week, and now they're bilingual. And I think that that's a big improvement, because I never really understood why they only had the English days of the week, unlike the cousin and the A6. And obviously it's a Japanese planner, so it makes sense that they would have the days of the week in Japanese. Number 5, monthly calendar boxes are now the same size in the weeks. Now this is another big improvement. I'm really, really happy about this. So as you can see, in 2016, the Sunday box had one grid less than the other days of the week, and that was quite inconvenient. For one thing, if you use these boxes for the grid boxes for tracking, as I used to, so I used to use this for water tracking, then you have one box less on Sunday, and that can be annoying. But even if you don't use it for tracking, it's more cramped, you have less space to write. And so I was always frustrated by that. So as you can see, 2017, they're all equal, and I think that that is a fantastic change. I'm really happy about that. It also looks to me, and I don't know if this is just the photo, but it looks like they've made the weekly labels at the top a bit bigger, which if they have, then I think that's fine. I don't really have a strong opinion about that either way, but I'm so happy that they've straightened out the sizes of the boxes. It also says that they've made the Japanese holidays easier to distinguish, which obviously doesn't really matter to you if you don't live in Japan, but that's fine. I'm kind of neutral about that. Then in the original, the cousin and the weeks, they have standardized things so that they all feature 3 years, last year, this year, and next year on the yearly calendar page. In the original, in the cousin and the weeks, there's no change here because the 2016 versions also looked like this. They had all 3 years, but the original only had 2 years, at least in the Avec version, which is the one that I have. So now they've added in the previous year. This is something that I feel kind of neutral about because I don't really use these very much. And particularly the previous year. I don't think I've ever consulted the previous year, or if so, then extremely rarely when I had to like report something for work on an activity that I'd done maybe. But I don't think that a lot of people need to look back on the previous year. So I don't really care about that one way or the other, but it's not a bad change, certainly. Next, there are improved daily page designs in the original and the cousin. So it says the daily page designs for the original and the cousin have been refined with clearer numbers and lines, larger dates, dotted lines changed to solid lines, and a bolder vertical timeline. Now, as far as I can tell, they haven't given us a 2016 version to compare with. So looking at this, just on the face of it, I can't actually see what the difference is. I think I would have to have the 26 version next to this to, be able to spot the differences. The one thing that stood out to me is that they said that they've changed the dotted lines to solid lines, and I'm not quite sure how I feel about that because I really like the dotted lines. That's sort of one of the iconic things that I associate with Hobonichi is dotted lines in the grid boxes. So I'm not sure, but just looking at the picture, it doesn't look bad. So I have a feeling that this might be a change that I feel neutral about, but I'd really have to see them both side by side to be able to compare them. Number 8, holidays removed from daily page headers in the planner, the English version. So I've never used the English Hobonichi, and so this is not something that I really have a strong opinion about. Certainly the new layout looks less cluttered. They say that the list of national holidays will still be listed at the back of the book. So I don't know. I don't really have an opinion about this. I think that it can be convenient having the holidays listed so that when you're on the page, you straight away know and you don't have to write them in. But On the other hand, it is a, you know, kind of an emptier, cleaner layout. So I think there are sort of pros and cons to that. Number 9, the 2 days per page section has been removed from the planner. So this is a change that had already happened last year in the original and the cousin. And I think that it was a good move in those cases. So the 2 weeks leading up to the beginning of the year, you didn't get any more, and instead they replaced them with memo pages, which I think was an excellent move. But I think that they already had the memo pages in the English planner, so I guess they've just taken these pages out and not replaced them with anything. That's how it seems. I'm not sure. But again, I don't use the English planner, so I don't have a strong opinion about this. And then finally, for the English planner, they have changed the name officially from the Hobonichi planner to the Hobonichi Techo planner. Okay. Don't feel strongly about that either. Then finally, there's some new informational pages in the back. So in the original, the cousin and the weeks, you've got favorite local Japanese sweets, interacting with cats and dogs, which I think it's a shame that I don't read Japanese because I would enjoy that, useful first aid tips, and my 100. So this one sounds kind of promising because if it's blank, it says this list lets you pick whatever theme you want, things you want to do this year, books you want to read, movies you want to see, etc. So if it has like 100 different spaces, I think that could be really, really useful for some kind of record keeping or tracking, or indeed my beloved, much sought after forward planning. Maybe I could use it for that. And then it's got other useful pages which sound like they're the same as in previous years. And then in the English planner, you have favorite local Japanese sweets, a guide to Japanese tea, which I think they've had before, Japanese plants and animals, and important contacts. And that's it. Those are the changes for this year. So all in all, I think that they've done some really good things. I think highlights are obviously the introduction of the weekly pages for the cousin avec. I think that's just fantastic. Putting in the line at the top of the page here on the memo page before the month, at the beginning of each month of the daily spreads. I think that's a really good improvement. And there are a couple of other things that I think are either neutral or positive. The only thing that I'm really disappointed about is the removal of the notes space at the bottom of each week in the weeks, as I've said. But overall, I think some really nice changes to look forward to, and I'm really excited to see these in person. So let me know what you think about these changes, if you have any particular favorites or if there are any that you're upset about. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll be back again soon. Bye!